What truly happened behind the scenes that day? On the surface, it appeared to be just another difficult loss for a rising star, but the story seemed far more complex than a simple result on the scoreboard. At just 21 years old, Eala had already become one of the most recognizable figures in Filipino tennis. Developed at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, she built an impressive junior career that included a Grand Slam title and steadily established herself as one of the sport's most promising young talents. Her breakthrough season brought significant momentum, highlighted by victories over elite opponents and rapid progress in the rankings. With every success, however, expectations continued to grow. Each match became about more than winning or losing. Questions followed her everywhere. Could she continue making history? Could she carry the hopes of an entire nation? Could she become the player who opened new doors for future generations? As her profile expanded, so did the pressure that came with it. Then came a tournament in China where things began to feel different. While the spotlight remained fixed on her performances, subtle signs suggested that the challenges she faced extended beyond what fans could see on the court. The intensity of competition, the demands of a long season, and the burden of rising expectations all appeared to be converging at the same moment. When she arrived for what seemed like a routine hard-court event, there was little indication that anything unusual was unfolding. Yet results alone rarely tell the full story. Reports later revealed that Eala suffered another early-round defeat, falling to Claire Liu after a match that shifted dramatically in momentum. The contest began strongly before gradually slipping away, leaving many observers searching for answers. Soon afterward, speculation began circulating about events away from the court. Unverified social media discussions hinted at a tense moment inside the locker room following the match, fueling curiosity about whether there was more behind the disappointing result than fatigue or a temporary dip in form. While the details remained unclear, the growing conversation highlighted a larger question. Was this simply a difficult day at the office, or was Eala dealing with challenges that the public had yet to fully understand? Following the match, speculation began spreading rapidly across social media. Various posts and online discussions suggested that unusual events may have taken place behind the scenes, with rumors ranging from tense exchanges in private areas to reports that Eala appeared visibly distressed afterward. Importantly, none of these claims were confirmed by major news organizations, yet they gained traction as fans searched for explanations beyond the final score. In professional sports, moments of disappointment can often trigger intense emotions, particularly after a difficult defeat. For an athlete already carrying the demands of competition, travel, media obligations, and public expectations, the period immediately following a loss can be especially challenging. What should be a quiet moment to regroup can quickly become overwhelming when attention and speculation begin to build. As discussions continued online, some accounts described a tense atmosphere surrounding the tournament, while others suggested there may have been disagreements or frustrations that were never publicly explained. Whether those reports were accurate remained uncertain, but they contributed to a growing narrative that the loss was about more than what happened on the court. The official record shows only a first-round exit, yet many observers believed the circumstances surrounding the tournament were more complicated than the scoreboard indicated. In the days that followed, attention shifted to Eala's condition and emotional state. Reports circulated claiming she appeared exhausted and overwhelmed during media appearances, though the exact reasons remained unclear. As often happens when information is limited, speculation filled the gaps. Some pointed to the physical demands of a long season, while others wondered whether the mounting pressure of expectations had begun to take a toll. Whatever the cause, the conversation quickly expanded beyond tennis strategy and match results. Fans wanted to understand what had really happened behind the scenes. Was it simply the frustration of a tough loss, the accumulated strain of a demanding schedule, or something entirely different that had never been publicly revealed? As questions multiplied, the story spread across online communities, discussion forums, and social media platforms, where supporters and analysts alike began piecing together their own theories. What started as an early-round defeat had suddenly become one of the most talked-about stories surrounding the tournament, setting the stage for an even deeper examination of how the tennis world would react to the growing controversy. For many young athletes, especially aspiring Filipino tennis players, Eala's rise had become a source of inspiration. Her journey offered proof that reaching the highest levels of the sport was possible, and that sense of optimism had resonated with fans long before this tournament. But following her disappointing result in China, the conversation began to change. Headlines focused on another early exit, questions emerged about her recent form, and observers started wondering what had happened to the player who had recently produced breakthrough performances against some of the biggest names in tennis. As speculation intensified, various tennis blogs and online commentators debated whether factors beyond the match itself may have contributed to the situation. Some questioned how young stars are supported during demanding stretches of the tour, arguing that professional tennis can place enormous emotional and physical burdens on emerging players. Others pointed to the relentless scrutiny that accompanies rapid success, where every setback is magnified and every difficult moment becomes public discussion. Across social media, support for Eala remained strong. Fans shared messages of encouragement, expressing concern for her well-being and urging patience as she navigated a challenging period in her career. At the same time, unverified claims and rumors continued to circulate online, creating an atmosphere where facts and speculation often became difficult to separate. Some discussions portrayed her as a victim of circumstances beyond her control, while others viewed the situation as part of the natural ups and downs faced by young athletes competing at the highest level. The result was a growing wave of commentary that extended far beyond tennis itself. What made the story particularly powerful was that Eala represented more than a single player chasing victories. To many supporters, she symbolized progress, representation, and possibility. When someone carrying that level of significance experiences a setback, public reaction inevitably becomes more intense. As theories spread across social media, forums, and fan communities, the alleged locker room incident developed into a story of its own. Questions multiplied, assumptions circulated, and countless interpretations emerged, yet clear answers remained elusive. Without verified information, much of the discussion was driven by uncertainty rather than evidence. Nevertheless, the growing mystery only increased public fascination, turning what began as a disappointing tournament loss into a much larger conversation about pressure, expectations, and the challenges faced by one of tennis's most closely watched young stars. As unanswered questions continued to circulate, a broader narrative began taking shape. Without a definitive public explanation, speculation filled the void, and every disappointing result seemed to add another layer to the discussion. What might have been viewed as a temporary dip in form was increasingly being framed as part of a larger struggle. Fans and commentators began asking difficult questions. How much pressure can a young athlete absorb while carrying enormous expectations? What happens when every victory is celebrated nationally and every defeat becomes a headline? Professional athletes often appear composed in public, but the reality behind the scenes can be far more complicated. As attention surrounding the rumors intensified, the focus gradually shifted from a single tournament loss to concerns about Eala's overall trajectory. A series of early exits prompted further scrutiny, with observers debating whether physical fatigue, scheduling demands, confidence issues, or external pressures could be contributing factors. In the Philippines and among her international supporters, reactions were mixed. Many rallied behind her with messages of encouragement, while others searched for answers regarding her recent performances. Questions emerged about workload management, tournament selection, and the challenges of balancing competition with growing public expectations. Within tennis circles, some analysts pointed to the difficulties faced by young players who experience rapid success. Breaking through on the professional tour often brings new responsibilities, increased media attention, and heightened pressure that few athletes are fully prepared to navigate. At the same time, the continued circulation of unverified locker room rumors only complicated the situation. Some wondered why no clear clarification had emerged, while others cautioned against drawing conclusions without confirmed information. The lack of definitive answers allowed speculation to continue, creating an environment where assumptions often overshadowed facts. The discussion also sparked a wider conversation about athlete well-being. While physical injuries are easy to identify and report, the emotional and psychological challenges of competing at the highest level are often far less visible. The intense spotlight placed on rising stars can create pressures that remain largely unseen by the public. As a result, many supporters began looking beyond match results and asking broader questions about the demands of professional tennis itself. Meanwhile, reports, rumors, and partial accounts continued to circulate online, leaving fans frustrated by the absence of clear information. Some wanted transparency, others wanted privacy respected, but nearly everyone wanted answers. In the end, the story remained suspended between confirmed facts and ongoing speculation. What began as a disappointing defeat had evolved into a larger conversation about pressure, expectations, and the realities faced by one of the sport's most closely watched young players. The impact extended well beyond a single match, shaping perceptions of an entire season and leaving many wondering what would happen next. At some point, the conversation surrounding Eala began to change. Instead of focusing exclusively on her potential, achievements, and rapid rise through the rankings, attention shifted toward questions, scrutiny, and uncertainty. the narrative was no longer centered solely on a promising young star breaking new ground. It became increasingly shaped by discussions about adversity, pressure, and how she would respond to setbacks. For many athletes, the defining challenges of a career do not always occur in front of packed stadiums or television audiences. Sometimes they emerge in quieter moments, away from public view, where confidence, resilience, and perspective are tested most intensely. Whether fairly or unfairly, recent events placed Eala under a level of examination rarely experienced by someone so early in a professional career. As the discussion grew, a larger question emerged: could she move forward and continue building on her success, or would this difficult period become a defining chapter of her story? To answer that question, it is important to separate established facts from speculation. What is known is that Eala suffered a difficult defeat at the Guangzhou Open after a closely contested match that shifted dramatically in momentum. It is also well documented that she has spoken openly about the pride and responsibility she feels when representing the Philippines on the international stage. That responsibility has always been a source of motivation, but it also carries expectations that few athletes fully understand unless they experience them firsthand. Beyond those facts, however, much of the conversation becomes less certain. Despite widespread online discussion, there has been no confirmed public evidence supporting many of the rumors that circulated after the tournament. No official statements, verified reports, or authoritative investigations have substantiated the more dramatic claims. Instead, the story has largely been driven by social media speculation, secondhand accounts, and interpretations that remain difficult to verify. This highlights a reality of modern sports culture: narratives often develop long before all the facts are available. Once an idea enters public discussion, it can quickly take on a life of its own, shaped by assumptions, repeated across platforms, and amplified by curiosity. In some cases, perception begins to carry as much influence as reality itself. Whether the events were misunderstood, exaggerated, or simply incomplete, the ongoing discussion illustrates how quickly uncertainty can evolve into a defining storyline. For a young athlete navigating the demands of elite competition, that can be a challenge almost as significant as anything that happens on the court. The real story may not be about a single rumor or a single defeat, but about how an emerging star responds when expectations, scrutiny, and public attention suddenly become part of the journey. If an athlete feels that a place of privacy and recovery has been disrupted, whether in reality or simply through perception, the emotional impact can be significant. Professional competitors operate under immense pressure, and even uncertainty can become a source of stress. In Eala's case, the limited public response only deepened the curiosity surrounding the situation. Some interpreted the silence as a desire to protect her privacy. Others viewed it as a strategic decision to avoid fueling further speculation. The truth is that no one outside her inner circle can know for certain. What is clear, however, is that the absence of definitive answers allowed rumors to grow far larger than the known facts. Yet beyond the speculation lies a more practical and perhaps more meaningful explanation. Consider the reality of Eala's position: a young athlete competing on the global stage, traveling constantly, facing elite opponents, managing expectations from millions of supporters, and carrying the responsibility that comes with representing her country. These are not hypothetical challenges, they are well-documented realities faced by many rising stars in professional sports. Viewed through that lens, the story may be less about controversy and more about the cumulative effects of pressure, fatigue, and relentless scrutiny. What some interpreted as a dramatic collapse may instead reflect the very human consequences of operating in an environment where expectations rarely pause. That perspective shifts the focus away from rumors and toward a broader conversation about the demands placed on young athletes. The most important question may not be what happened